The NFL Super Bowl is in the books and the Philadelphia Eagles are your Super Bowl champions. So in this video, I want to react to the game and yes, let's talk about all of my terrible Philadelphia Eagles hot takes. But if you guys do going to enjoy the video, hit the like and subscribe button. Let's hop into it. Now, yes, I'm wearing my Cowboys hat and my Maverick shirt because I'm a very sad Dallas fan and unfortunately the Philadelphia Eagles won. Honestly though, I was probably more excited for the Eagles to win than the Chiefs, so I'm not too mad about the overall way the game went. Before we start this entire video though, I do think it's fair that I put a little montage of all of my horrific Philadelphia Eagles takes that have aged so unbelievably bad.
I think the Philadelphia Eagles made a massive mistake because with the recent hires of Vic Fangio and Kellen Moore, I think the Philadelphia Eagles are kind of doomed to have another down season.
Next up, Nick Sirianni of the Philadelphia Eagles. Yeah, I'm going to put him in boiling, man. This team has not looked good so far this year. Yes, they're 3-2, but dude, you beat the Cleveland Browns by 4 points. Number 5, Jalen Hurts and his injuries and inconsistencies might hurt the Philadelphia Eagles Super Bowl chances. Back to the coaching staff, I still think the coaching staff is a big weak point for this team, but I don't think it will affect their regular season statistics and their overall performance. I think it might affect their playoffs more than anything. But yeah, you can get your jokes in the comments. Those were some pretty rough takes, and obviously my hair was a little bit longer, so I'm a different person now, and I can see the Philadelphia Eagles for who they actually are. They're Super Bowl champions, and I got a lot of things to talk about within this game. I think the best way to start this off is by actually talking about the Chiefs side of things, because maybe that's a bit more of the interesting thing that happened within this game, because the Philadelphia Eagles, they dominated the entire game. For Kansas City, this is the first time, arguably in Mahomes' entire career, where it felt like Mahomes was the reason why the team lost. It also was one of the first times within the entirety of the Chiefs franchise becoming really good these past few years where I felt like they got outcoached both offensively and defensively. It was a bizarre game plan from the Chiefs. They did not run the ball. There was no balance to their scheme. The Eagles were just able to tee off because they were passing the ball like every single play and they were so ineffective doing so. Nobody could really generate any separation. They probably should have targeted Xavier Worthy a bit more in this game. It just felt like this was a Chiefs performance that we have really never seen before. It was such a bizarre showcase of who they are, and I think two things can be true. One, the Eagles played incredible, but two, the Chiefs just looked really bad. Now I want to say this, the Eagles deserve credit. The Eagles straight up demolished the Kansas City Chiefs. But again, two things can be true. The Chiefs looked unbelievably unlike themselves. They were shooting themselves in the foot with just costly penalties, which you almost never see against this Chiefs team. It felt like the offensive line, which has been an issue all year long, got exposed 10 times more than what they typically do. And the defense for Kansas City that has been so good throughout the past few years of this, trying to go for a three-peat, they got exposed like really badly. Now I want to say this, I want to go back to Patrick Mahomes here because I do think Patrick Mahomes was the #1 reason why they lost this game. Those 2 interceptions were really bad throws that led to 14 points and ultimately opened the game up. It was 24-0 at halftime, and if you take off those 14 points, you're talking about potentially a 10-0 game going into halftime, or let's say Philadelphia goes down and kicks a field goal 13-0 or something along those lines. If those interceptions don't happen, this game is probably a little bit more comebackable. I'm not sure if that's a word, but it's a game that you can come back from if you're only down 17 or 13 or even 10 if you got lucky. But because they were down 24-0, they essentially needed everything to go their way in the second half, and of course, as we know, it didn't go their way. It was just an unbelievable performance from the Philadelphia Eagles, but maybe more shockingly, it was just such a bad performance from the Kansas City Chiefs. We have really never seen this Chiefs team have such a stinker in the postseason. Yes, you can go back to that game against the Buccaneers where Mahomes looked incredible, but the entirety of that Chiefs team just had a terrible game. But this wasn't the case. This was a Chiefs team where every aspect of their defense and offense was horrible, from the coaching, from the personnel, from even Patrick Mahomes, who a lot of people coming into this game were already saying that Mahomes has a conversation to be the greatest of all time. And I don't want to turn this video into a hit piece on Patrick Mahomes, but I do think that this very poor, putrid performance does hurt his case to ever become the greatest of all time. Even if he does come out there and win 6, 7, 8 Super Bowls, we're always going to be able to come back to the fact that he's been blown out in Super Bowls twice. One in a game where he was favored against the Philadelphia Eagles, and one in a game against the guy who's trying to overcome in Tom Brady. Again, nothing really helped Patrick Mahomes. The receivers couldn't get open. They were dropping passes. DeAndre Hopkins had such a bizarre drop in this game. There was no running game, and I don't think the play calling was all that great in this game at all. But Mahomes directly led to 14 points and directly led to the blowout actually starting. I do want to say this though, again, I talked about this a bit earlier. I thought the play calling for Andy Reid was extremely disappointing. Like, there was no balance in this game. It felt like they were passing every single down. When they tried to run, there was no creativity. The offense looked so stale and flat. It did not look like a typical Andy Reid offense, which, kind of going back to what I've been saying, it was just very shocking and very disappointing. Again, you got to give a lot of credit to Philadelphia. Vic Fangio had Andy Reid running everything that he probably could, and nothing was getting open. It was so shocking. I'll just say it that way. It was so shocking. The Chiefs played their worst game of the season, arguably their worst game of Patrick Mahomes' career, and a big reason why was because Philadelphia was just an absolute buzzsaw today. We'll start off with Jalen Hurts for the Philadelphia Eagles. Jalen Hurts was fantastic. One of the hot takes that you heard in the beginning was me calling out Jalen Hurts and saying that I don't think Jalen Hurts can win a Super Bowl because he wasn't throwing for 300 yards. That was nitpicking, and it was really bad take. And he threw for 221 yards, had an interception, which I'm not going to put all the blame on him. And he also had 2 touchdowns and a rushing touchdown, 72 rushing yards. This was a game where Saquon Barkley didn't really play particularly good. In fact, I actually thought that he left a little bit of some yardage open in those first couple handoffs. It wasn't really till late when he was actually kind of able to get a couple of things going, but it wasn't a Saquon Barkley day where he ran for 200 yards, won MVP, and did all these things that a lot of us, including myself, thought he was going to have to do if they were going to beat this Chiefs team. This was a game where the defense was just so unbelievably dominant. They basically gave the Philadelphia Eagles 14 points, the pick 6, and then the ball at like the 5-yard line, so I'm going to give that one to the defense. But Jalen Hurts, he just played such a clean game. I know he had the interception, but it wasn't costly. He was perfect on the day. I thought every decision that he made was great, which is something that a lot of us have been critical of with Jalen Hurts. His decision-making has been suspect at times. He doesn't read defenses high level like Mahomes does. You know, turnovers were an issue to start the season off, fumbling, and the leg injury, which was concerning. All those things did not matter. Today, he overcame all of those things. His decision-making was incredible. His pocket presence was incredible. He had 11 carries for 72 yards. His leg looked great. I mean, this was a awesome Jalen Hurts performance. I'm glad he won MVP, but this game was more about the defense more so than the offense. Josh Sweat, Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, Brandon Graham, even, like, those guys obliterated the front 5 of the Kansas City Chiefs. It did not matter what the Chiefs were trying to run offensively. Mahomes had like 3 seconds, not even 3 seconds, like 2 seconds each time to step back and make decisions, because Josh Sweat, who I believe had like 2.5 sacks, Jordan Davis, all those guys I talked about, were unbelievably dominant the entire game against the Kansas City Chiefs. Going up against guys like Joe Thuney, who have been incredible players for many years to come, even Trey Smith, Creed Humphrey, those guys it just looked like they were playing in slow motion compared to the Philadelphia Eagles, who looked like they knew everything that was happening. It was the ultimate team performance from the front 4 too. It wasn't like Josh Sweat was going out there and just, having a game above all games. It was these guys' pass rushing lanes were just ridiculous. Like, they knew when Mahomes was going to step up into the pocket, and when he was there was somebody for him. I mean, it was an incredible performance from the defensive line. I got to give a ton of credit to them. I also want to give a lot of credit to the front 7 in general, the linebacking core, which was something that I have been critical of throughout the offseason and was very concerned with. I mean, it completely was turned around this year, and in a game where I don't believe Nakobe Dean played, the linebacking core was fantastic. Zach Bond has been a revelation for them, and for their sake, I hope they're able to bring him back because I believe he's a free agent. Also, give credit to the secondary. I mean, Quinion Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, Blankenship, all those guys, Darius Slay, they had a great game. Garner Johnson as well, he had a great game too. It was just the entire defense looked like they knew everything that the Chiefs were running. There was nothing running wide open, and when there was a wide open DeAndre Hopkins, the dude dropped the football. The front 4, they knew where Mahomes was going, and they knew his every step. It was as if every step that the Chiefs took, the Eagles knew what they were doing. It was such a very impressive performance from Vic Fangio. I'm very happy for Vic Fangio. I was very critical of the potential hire of Vic Fangio because I didn't think that he was much different from what they ran last year. But Vic Fangio came in here. He made one of the best defenses in the league, and yes, he has arguably the most talented roster to work with, but a talented roster is nothing without a great head coach or great offensive mind or in a great defensive mind. Hell, we saw that last year with this Eagles team where they didn't even make the playoffs because of how bad the coaching was last year. And a lot of that was put on Nick Sirianni. And I think a lot of us, including myself, owe Nick Sirianni a bit of an apology. I don't think Nick Sirianni is a Kyle Shanahan, a Sean McVay, a Matt LaFleur, or hell, even an Andy Reid. He's not a guy who calls the plays like that. He's just not. But at the same time, you got to give him credit for being humble, having some humility, and allowing Kellen Moore to be the guy who runs the plays. I mean, that takes honestly, some guts. That takes a little bit of some humbleness, and I got to give him credit. If it was me, I don't know if I would have given up the play calling, because I do believe that he was a play caller at one point. So I got to give credit to him. I got to give credit to the entire coaching staff for having the team just look so prepared and out coaching one of the greatest coaching staffs of all time with the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, Spagnuolo is an incredible coach. Andy Reid is an incredible coach, but the Philadelphia Eagles just looked like they were running circles around the Kansas City Chiefs, which is such a bizarre thing. I think this was the most shocking Super Bowl performance that I've seen maybe in a long time. I had some people say that the Broncos versus Seahawks game was a shocker because of how dominant the Seahawks looked, and I do agree that that was a shocking game, but it wasn't as shocking as this. The Chiefs are back-to-back Super Bowl champions, going for a three-peat, have one of the greatest quarterbacks, greatest head coaches, greatest tight ends, a fantastic defense, a great defensive coordinator, just one of the most well-constructed rosters of the 2020s, and yet they got obliterated. I mean, at one point, the score was like 34-6, something crazy, like 40-6, something along those lines, and, you know, the Chiefs made the final score look a tad bit more respectable, and Mahomes made his stats look a little bit better by the end. I mean, Mahomes did finish with 250-plus yards, 3 touchdowns, and 2 picks, but all of those points and all those extra yardages came late in the fourth when the Eagles just knew the game was over and didn't care. Again, such a shocking performance. I want to give a huge shout out to the Philadelphia Eagles. Again, I was very critical of this team this offseason. I thought they would win the division. I thought that they would have a chance of potentially making a playoff run, but I thought at most an NFC Championship appearance, because I did not think that Kellen Moore and Vic Fangio and Nick Sirianni would get this talented roster over the hump. And not only was I wrong, I was embarrassingly wrong. I mean, this was a complete masterclass from the coaching staff, from the personnel, from the team in general. And you got to give credit to Howie Roseman too for bringing in Saquon Barkley, who, when the offense was sputtering and didn't have the same sophistication within the pass game, they were able to run the ball effectively. And for Kellen Moore, somebody who came from Dallas, came from LA, very pass heavy offenses, to understand that this is not a pass heavy team. And it took him a few weeks, because those first couple of weeks, let's just be honest, weren't that incredible. But once they realized, hey, we have a generational talent in Saquon Barkley and we can use Jalen Hurts' rushing ability, the offense just really opened up. And, you know, for all the criticisms that we gave this team during the offseason, hiring Kellen Moore, getting Vic Fangio, you know, nitpicking every single small flaw on this team, they overcame it. They did not care, and they're Super Bowl champions. And I guess the conversation now starts with the Philadelphia Eagles. Can they start potentially putting together a little bit of a run here? From what I know, Kellen Moore is taking the Saints job, which we'll see if he backs out of it, because Nick Sirianni's trying to bring him back. And to be honest with you, if I was Kellen Moore, I don't think I would take the Saints job. To be honest, I'd probably return to the team. So we'll see what happens there. But I think there is a potential chance the Philadelphia Eagles win another Super Bowl within the next couple years. I told my brother that I thought the Philadelphia Eagles have a very good shot of winning at least a couple more championships if things keep going in this right direction, because this offseason you have a couple key free agents like Josh Sweat. I talked about Zach Bond, Avonte Maddox, some other good players in there, but the main core group of guys, AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, Saquon, Jalen Hurts, the majority of the offensive line, minus potentially some retirements. The defense, for the most part, it's returning. Vic Fangio is going to be back. Nick Sirianni is going to be back. Again, we'll see what happens with the offensive coordinator, but this is an Eagles team that's likely going to run it back. And yes, the competition will be good next year. Detroit should look better. The Cowboys should be a better team from last year. Maybe could give the Eagles a run for the money within the division. Washington will take a step forward too. There's a lot of good teams in the NFC, but I would be a little bit shocked if the Philadelphia Eagles don't at least make another Super Bowl appearance within the next couple years, because this is a team that's built to win now. They have a win now roster and a win now head coach. For the Kansas City Chiefs, I'm not like worried about them. I don't believe that this is the end of a dynasty, but there are a number of key question marks you have to ask yourself. Andy Reid's getting older. Travis Kelce potentially could retire. We'll see about how that goes down. I don't think he will, but there's the chance he does. You have a number of key free agents like Trey Smith on your offensive line. I want to say Nick Bolton is a free agent here too. A couple other key players like Justin Reed. So you're going to have to find a way to pay those guys, and it's going to be quite difficult when you have a pretty expensive roster. You also need to potentially look at a addressing the wide receiving core again. The offensive line has been an issue for the past couple years, and now the running back room has some question marks because Isaiah Pacheco's injury just completely diminished his value. So if you are the Chiefs, I mean, as long as you have Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, you're still going to be in contention. And hell, you made it to the AFC, or you made it to the Super Bowl for a reason. You beat the you beat the Buffalo Bills, you beat the Houston Texans, and you're still a fantastic team. But, you know, potentially this could be a bit of a down period for the Chiefs these next couple years. I don't think it will be. I still think that they will be in contention each year, but with some of the players they're losing, they're going to have to replace them, and it's going to be quite difficult. So for the Chiefs, I don't feel as confident heading into 2026 as I was heading into this year. For the Eagles, I feel really confident about their chances to potentially repeat. So you guys let me know in the comment section below. What did you think about the Super Bowl? I thought it was an incredible performance from the Eagles and a very disappointing performance from the Chiefs, but overall, very good Super Bowl. Also, the halftime show, RIP Drake. But if you enjoyed, hit the like and subscribe button. Love you guys. Peace.